And today's fairy tale is called Rumpelstilskin. There once was a miller who was poor, but he had one beautiful daughter. It happened one day that he came to speak with the king, and to give himself consequence, he told the king that he had a daughter who could spin straw into gold. The king said to the miller, "That is an art that pleases me well. If thy daughter is as clever as you say, bring her to my castle tomorrow, and I may put her to the proof." When the girl was brought to him, he led her to a room that was quite full of straw, and he gave her a wheel and a spindle, and said, "Now, set to work, and if by early morning thou hast not spun this straw to gold, thou shalt die." And he shut the door himself and left her there alone. So the poor miller's daughter was left there sitting and could not think what to do for all her life. She had no notion how to set to work to spin straw into gold, and her distress grew so great that she began to weep. Then all at once the door opened, and in came a little man who said, "Good evening, Mistress Miller. Oh, why are you crying?" "Oh," said the girl, "I have to spin the straw into gold, and I don't understand the business." Then the little man said, "What will you give me if I spin it for you?" My necklace," the girl said. The little man took the necklace, seated himself before the wheel, and spun all the straw into gold. And in the morning, at sunrise, in came the king, and he saw the gold, and he was astonished and very much rejoiced, for he was very avaricious, which means greedy. He had the miller's daughter taken into another room filled with straw, much bigger than the last, and told her that if she valued her life, she must spin it all again in one night. The girl did not know what to do, and so she began to cry again, and then the door opened, and the little man appeared, and he said, "What will you give me if I spin all this straw into gold?" "The ring from my finger," the girl answered. And so the little man took the ring and began again to send the wheel whirring around. And by the next morning, all the straw was spun into glistening gold. The king rejoiced beyond measure at the sight, but as he could never have enough gold, he had the miller's daughter taken into a still larger room full of straw, and he said, "This too must be spun in one night, and if you accomplish it, you shall be my wife." For he thought, although she is but a miller's daughter, I am not likely to find anyone richer in the whole world. As soon as the girl was left alone, the little man appeared for the third time and said, "What will you give me if I spin this straw for you this time?" "I have nothing left to give," answered the girl. "Then you must promise me the first child you have after you are queen," said the little man. "But who knows whether that will even happen?" thought the girl. But as she did not know what else to do, she promised the little man what he desired, and he began to spin until all the straw was gold. And when in the morning the king came and found all was done according to his wishes, he caused the wedding to be held at once, and the miller's pretty daughter became a queen. In a year's time, she brought a fine child into the world, and thought no more of the little man. But one day he came suddenly into her room, and he said, "Now give me what you promised me." The queen was terrified greatly, and offered the little man all the riches in the kingdom if he would but only leave the child. But the little man said, "No, I would rather have something living than all the treasures in the world." Then the queen began to lament and weep, so that the little man had pity on her. "I will give you 3 days, and if at the end of that time you cannot tell me my name, you must give up the child to me." Then the queen spent the whole night thinking over all the names she had ever heard, and sent a messenger through the land as far and wide to ask for all the names that could be found. And when the little man came the next day, beginning with Caspar, Melchior, Balthazar, she recited all the names she knew. She went through the whole list. But after each one, the little man said, "That is not my name." The second day, the queen sent to inquire of all the neighbors what the servants were called, and told the little man all the most unusual and singular names, saying, "Perhaps you are called roast ribs, or sheep shanks, or spindle shanks." But he answered nothing but, "That is not my name." The third day, the messenger came back again and said, "I have not been able to find one single new name, but as I passed through the woods, I came up a hill, and near it was a little house, and before the house burned a fire, and round the fire danced a comical little man. And he hopped on one leg, and he cried, 'Today do I bake, tomorrow I brew. The day after that the queen's child comes in. And oh, I am glad that nobody knew that the name I am called is Rumpelstilskin.'" You cannot think how pleased the queen was to hear that name, and soon afterwards, when the little man walked in and said, "Now, Mrs. Queen, what is my name?" she said at first, "Are you called Jack?" "No," answered he. "Are you called Henry?" she asked again. "No," answered he. And then she said, "Then perhaps your name is Rumpelstiltskin." "The devil told you that! The devil told you that!" cried the little man, and in his anger he stamped with his right foot so hard that he went into the ground above his knee. And then he seized his left foot with both hands, and in such a fury that he split in two. And that was the end of him. Now, if you'd like to try a little makerspace challenge with that particular story, try some weaving. If you've never done any weaving, there's lots of great things that you can make. You can weave with paper, you can weave with grass, you can weave with yarn, and you can weave onto different objects. You can weave onto sticks, or you can weave onto all kinds of things. Another idea would be to make a necklace or a ring. That was what Rumpelstiltskin was given the first couple of times. And you can make necklaces and rings out of all kinds of different materials. And the next thing I thought would be fun to just have some fun with your own name. Rumpelstiltskin is a pretty unusual name, and if you could sort of create your own fun name for yourself, or maybe even for family members, and like the queen was coming up with all kinds of names like Beastie Ribs. But once you've created a name for yourself, and you can use your own name as well, create a door tag to hang on your door of your room or at your house, just to sort of display your name. All right. I hope you guys are having fun. I hope you're learning lots, and stay tuned for more story times.